Hello, everyone, and happy International Women's Day. This year's theme is Women in Leadership Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World. So we thought it'd be fitting to tap into the women champions of our own organization here at Aprimo. My name is Noah Horberg, and I am the marketing specialist here. And I'm joined by my colleague Ana Lantigua, who's our Global Alliances Manager. And we wanted to sit down with one of our leaders, Anjali Yakkundi. Anjali, would you like to give a little intro to yourself, your position here at Aprimo?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Anna and Noah. So my name is Anjali, and I lead our product marketing function here at Aprimo.
Nice. Well, let's dive right in. Let's kick it off. So what made you decide to go into the tech industry?
Honestly, it was a fluke. So like, oh my God, how many years ago? It was probably like 12 years ago. I was working in medical research and I was like, I don't think I can do a PhD anymore. Like, this is too difficult. I don't want to do all the applications. I want to try something different. I met someone on an airplane who was like showing me pictures of his kids and his wife, and I was like, okay, whatever. And he's like, you should think about the tech industry. Like, here's my card. You should come work at my company. And I randomly networked with him. I got an interview, and 12 years later, I'm still in the tech industry. So it was super random. I'm really happy though that I'm here because I think the pace is what I was looking for, the innovation, the everything about kind of the culture, fast paced, moving, things are constantly evolving and the technology is constantly evolving. It's really exciting for me. So I'm so glad that I made that switch, though I still, have all the respect in the world for, my previous job. So.
I know part of a huge part and aspect of your job is doing so much research within the market. I know you have a rich background from Forrester as well, which is also really funny to see that the transition that happened from medical research into Forrester. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So, with seeing so much in the tech industry, has there been anybody that really stands out to you as an inspiration?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think there are so many people who have been great mentors to me along the way. I have one former colleague who really kind of instilled in me kind of how to be a manager. And so he really taught me that how important it is to grow people, to give them credit and be not just kind of a manager, but also a sounding board. And so, that was someone who, he really influenced the way I look at managing. I have another former colleague who was really influential for me in thinking about, how I manage kind of work-life balance. She was always very vocal about like thinking about that and making it a priority for prioritizing both aspects of her life. So I mean, there have been so many. And then from a just inspirational point of view, I mean, there's people who I really look up to, people like Mark Benioff and how he really prioritizes the community that he serves as well. I someone else who really I look up to is someone, Marcy Cleaborn. You guys probably don't know her. You've heard of her, but she is the former CIO of Ford and is actually a family friend. And she is just really inspirational. She went everywhere, from the bottom all the way to be CIO in her career. And I think that's just so inspirational how she did that, managing, especially in an IT organization, a group of men, but just such a like amazing, strong woman, but has an amazing family and is also just really smart and kind. So yeah, I mean, I think there's people who are kind of these big public figures and people who have influenced me personally.
That's incredible. So you did just mention, a woman kind of leading a group of men, and that really leads directly into, one of our questions. What challenges have you faced as a woman in the industry since it is such a male-dominated industry?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the big thing that for me is having no fear.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times early in my career, I was afraid. Like, I was afraid to speak up. Like, am I saying the wrong thing? If I saw something wrong, I didn't want to say anything because I felt like, well, I don't want to call attention to myself. So at this point, I wish I could go back and tell my past self, like, don't be afraid. Um, there's plenty of people who say things that are not the smartest and they don't have fear. Like, so just standing out, I think, having no fear, say what you believe is right, whether that is an idea that you believe in or a thought, or you want to push back on something, or it's something kind of bigger, like you see something that's wrong with the culture or something. So I think, having no fear is something I always tell people when they ask me this question.
Yeah. So was there a pivotal moment where you stopped being afraid, or was there something that kind of made you get over that fear, or was it kind of gradual over time?
I think it was gradual over time, but I think it was gradual. There was definitely one moment in a previous job of mine where I fundamentally just like disagreed and I thought with something that management did. And I was talking to one of my mentors and we like just wrote a letter to management and we signed our names and a couple of people heard about it. They're like, can I sign my name too? And we're like, sure. It ended up going viral in the company, and like I think like 60 or 70% of the company ended up signing it and saying like, yeah, we also agree. And that I think was a really pivotal moment for me, where a lot of young women came up to me and were like, I thought this was wrong, but I just was too scared to say anything. So that I think it was gradual, and then seeing something like that and seeing that it actually impacts other women that I work with was really instrumental for me. And then at Aprimo, we are an emerging company, so we didn't always have like policies were left over from previous kind of companies that owned us. So I when I was pregnant, I actually said, I think we should change our maternity leave policies. And having no fear just to say that. And actually, Aprimo did. There was not a big deal at all. Like they were like, yeah, you're right, we should, and they changed it pretty quickly, actually. So I think, having no fear, those things kind of experiences have showed me that actually more people are willing to stand up and follow you.
That's incredible, Anjali. It's having no fear and giving voice to those around you. And sometimes you don't recognize how thoroughly that resonates with with the majority until you give voice to those opinions. That's incredible. Sounds like you've gotten to witness that both in your previous job at Aprimo. That's a really beautiful thing. Um, and I know part of that, you talked about already stepping up in your past job and then stepping up within Aprimo to see, like, bring the changes you wanted to see around maternity leave, more equal treatment there. So we know that there's obviously many things that still need to be solved for today in regards to gender equality. So if you could solve for one of those things, what would it be and why?
That's really hard.
Yeah.
I would say for me, it's kind of, they're two, but they're related. Equal pay for equal work, for sure. And then I think related to that is more focus on childcare, and especially in North America. And how we support women today. I think they're related. I think you'll see, a lot of the data shows that it is often when women become mothers that there's this inequality and the pay gap widens. And then I think, when you think about the pay gap as well, it affects women of color differently and more substantially. So I think that, for women to really be empowered, it starts with financial independence. And so I think that, there's a lot of components to that. It's such a difficult problem. But I really admire, I mentioned someone like Mark Benioff. I admire what companies like Salesforce have done in terms of, committing to ending the wage gap and transparency around level and pay. So yeah.
Yep, I'm reading his book Behind the Cloud right now.
Awesome.
So Anjali, with that in mind, and obviously, there has been this key theme around childcare and balancing that work and life balance. And I know it sounds like you had an incredible mentor in the past that really paved the way for you and showed you that you should step up and ask for more balance there. So with the theme being, women in leadership achieving an equal future amidst COVID and seeing this drastic shift over this past year, I think this work from life balance has been brought ever more to the forefront. So, what is one piece of advice you give to all women who are juggling home life and work?
Yeah, it's definitely really hard. I don't know if I have it solved.
No one does.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just being creative, honestly, like trying to be creative and let go of expectations that you're going to be perfect at everything you do and be creative. I think from like an institutional point of view, I think it's really important to realize that this is something that impacts both men and women. And so male colleagues who have families need to also step up for themselves and advocate that they need work-life balance too. I think I'm really lucky at Aprimo. I report to Kevin Sowers, our Chief Product Officer, and Kevin is a really present, father and really advocates. He wants us all to both, as a man too, he believes that we should all spend time with our families. And, it's, at the end of the day, we can only do so much at work, but, our family is our family. And so I think men need to step up. And then I saw this somewhere, which I thought was really interesting. I think it was like an opinion piece or I don't remember her name, but she's like some feminist thought leader. But she was like, it's actually really important who you choose to be your life partner. Or as you think about balancing work life, like having someone who's on the same page as you. I'm really lucky that both I have male and female coworkers who care and believe in the importance, but I also have a spouse that, is really present and an active father and person at home. So it's really important. It's kind of like cliche to talk about, I think, especially to young women. It's like, but I wish, I could go back and tell, young women, right? Like when if you are looking for a life partner, like make sure you're on the same page about these things too. So.
Wow, that's helpful advice, Anjali.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to be married. You guys, everyone can do whatever they want to do, but.
No, that's so nice to see also that you have had support, from the top down as well. So yes, you report to a man, but he understands, work life. I know he has a family, and so he probably throughout his experience, had to understand, what it takes to really raise a child, and so he has that understanding. Throughout your time in life and work, what other progress have you seen on gender equality? So I know you mentioned, better maternity leave, which you advocated for, which I know, I appreciate that from a standpoint of I work at this organization and I'm a young woman. And so that is awesome to know that in my future, I have that. So what other progress have you seen throughout your journey?
Yeah, I think just like flexibility, especially in tech, I think actually people are really flexible at most companies, that we work with at Aprimo, like in our peer companies, like the flexibility, the focus on it's not your hours, but focus on your output and your value and your impact. And that's awesome. I think, maybe 10 years ago when I kind of first was starting in this industry, it was very like, work these hours, even if you don't have anything to do, right? Or, it's like work these hours. And that's kind of, it's really changed, I think, especially with COVID and this remote workforce. People are really focusing on outcomes. And to me, that's the most important. I've always told my team, I don't care if you are done with work and you're sitting in your pajamas at 3 p.m. Like, okay, you did your work. Like if you produce like exceptional materials and you're going above and beyond, I don't really care when you're working. I think that flexibility has just really accelerated in the last 10 years, but also with COVID, it's accelerated too.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, and not every manager is as forgiving as you are in terms of that, I'm sure. And so it must be kind of tough. And I'm sure some women feel this more than men, that, sometimes they're not being heard. So if they are asking for a more reasonable, work-life balance throughout the day, or that, they do their work during the hours, but if they're not online at a certain time, they, get reprimanded. So I'm wondering, what advice would you give to those women, in terms of guaranteeing respect and a voice being heard within their workplace if they're not getting that or they don't have a manager like that?
I would say constantly focusing on your outcomes. Like if you produce high quality work and you can prove that, then that is just a fact that can't be disputed. Make sure you know your measurable impact in your organization, and don't be afraid to bring it up. Like be your own advocate, I think, is really important. No one else is, I learned this like early on, like no one else is going to advocate for you. Like if you want a promotion or you want flexibility or you think you did something good, like be your own advocate. I think, a lot of women are socialized to kind of downplay their success, and it takes a lot of active energy. So I would say, be your own advocate and make sure you know what you're producing, know your impact, and know your measure, like be able to measure it as well. So say like, look at this awesome project I did and look at the results. And here's what I want to focus on. So turn that conversation, instead of like, I'm not online exactly at 8:30 or whatever, say, well, look what I did, and I did this when it worked for me. Maybe I sat on at like 9:30 instead, but look at all these amazing results that I've achieved. So change that conversation.
That's incredible. You came to work and you produced work, like good work
Exactly.
too. So, yeah.
And it speaks for
Yeah.
itself in so many ways. And Anjali, okay, I have another question, because I know that, we've talked quite a bit about people that were instrumental throughout your progression and your career. And then I know that you now have people that directly report up to you and you have your own mentees. So are there certain leadership qualities you think were instilled throughout your progression that you now has made you successful as this woman leader within Aprimo?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really about letting your people shine. So I have an amazing product marketer, Betty, who I know you guys know. Everyone loves Betty. And she has done some awesome things. Like she completely revamped the way we did our product updates for our customers and saw like 200 times improvement in terms of engagement from our customers, and seeing people get engaged, consume, and understand. So amazing. I didn't do that much. I mean, I like guided her and I gave her advice, but she really did it. And something that I learned early on is you have to let your people shine. So I tried to shout from the rooftops to whoever would listen, like, look at this amazing thing that she did. Because even though I didn't do a lot, like, it makes you look good as a manager to have someone that amazing working for you. And I care about her. Like, I want her to get the credit. I want her to succeed. I want her career to grow. So I think just like really something that I learned early on from kind of people who showed me the ropes of managing, it's like when your people do good things, like share it with everyone and give them all the credit in the world, because it not only helps your people to grow and develop and fosters a culture where they feel like they can continue to innovate, but it also strengthens your team culture where everyone then wants to keep doing that, and it really makes the team, elevates all of us.
Wow. I mean, I'm sure your support was monumental in her success, clearly, So having someone that supports you throughout the way.
Just a tiny piece. She's
No, yeah, she is. I love Betty. She is incredible.
Well, it's just this beautiful thing that we keep hearing, Anjali, which is really around like championing those around you, giving voice to those around you, giving them space to find their voice as well, right? And come into themselves too.
Absolutely.
So that's incredible.
That's great. Well, Anjali, thank you so much. Is there anything that you would like to end, this interview with, with International Women's Day? Anything you want to say to the women out there today specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just end with just don't be afraid, have no fear. Especially in the tech industry, you have amazing skill sets, I think, for all women in tech. It's a hot industry, so have no fear. Be proud of what you can do and take risks. Don't be afraid. I think that's maybe what I'd end with.
Thank you, Anjali.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.